Purity and discipline, guarding the house, keeping the path straight. The Jerusalem assembly lived in the warmth of covenant fellowship, yet they knew that a household without purity becomes a house with broken walls and open gates. They remembered the stories of Israel, how sin weakened the camp, how hidden rebellion brought plague, how idols invited ruin. They knew that Yahweh walked among them, not in symbol but in truth, and that his presence demanded a people who kept their garments clean. Purity was not a burden to them, it was a shield, a lamp, a wall of protection, and a sign of loyalty to the Master who shed his blood to cleanse them. They guarded their hearts as a man guards the entrance of his vineyard. They watched their hands, ensuring their work did not stray into greed or deceit. They watched their tongues, refusing to speak slander or falsehood. They watched their eyes, turning away from paths that led toward corruption. Purity was not an inner feeling. It was the straightening of steps, the keeping of covenant boundaries, the honoring of Yahweh in the secret places of life. When a brother stumbled, he was not cast off. The assembly moved toward him as shepherds toward a wandering sheep. Elders went to him first, speaking truth with steady voices, reminding him of Yeshua's words and of the covenant he had entered. They did not strike with harshness. They restored with firmness. They understood that discipline was an act of love, a rescue, a fence built around a life in danger of drifting. Their goal was not punishment, but restoration. A return to the path, a lifting up of the fallen. Yet when a man hardened his heart and refused to turn, the assembly acted with gravity. They remembered how Israel was commanded to remove wickedness from the camp so that Yahweh's presence would not depart. Unrepentant sin was treated like rot in the beam of a house. It had to be cut away lest the whole structure collapse. In tears, not in pride, the assembly would separate the stubborn brother from their fellowship until he chose to walk upright again. They prayed for him, wept for him, and watched for the day he would return. But the house of Yahweh could not be left vulnerable. The judgment upon Ananias and Sapphira rested heavily upon their memory. A lie spoken in secret, coins withheld with deceit, and the couple fell to the ground under Yahweh's hand. Great fear came upon the whole assembly. They learned that lying to the Ruach was not a minor offense, but a strike against Yahweh himself. This fear purified them like fire refining silver. No one dared to join the assembly lightly. Those who did so came with honest hearts, ready to walk in truth. Purity touched every part of life: marriage, work, business, speech, worship, and fellowship. Husbands honored their wives as Yahweh's daughters. Wives walked in respect and strength. Children were taught obedience not for the sake of order but for the sake of righteousness. Merchants refused dishonest scales. Craftsmen worked with integrity. Servants served with sincerity. Masters treated their servants with justice and kindness. Every action bore witness to the fact that Yeshua had changed them. The household table itself became a place of purification. As bread was broken and cups lifted, men examined their hearts. If anger lingered between brothers, reconciliation happened before the meal. If envy had crept in, confession followed. If bitterness had taken root, forgiveness was sought. The table could not be defiled. It was the place where Yeshua had spoken of his body and his blood. To eat with hidden sin was to dishonor the covenant. Elders patrolled the spiritual walls of the assembly. They watched for false teaching, for words that threatened unity, for influences that carried the scent of idolatry. When teachers from outside visited, their words were weighed by Scripture. When prophetic words were spoken, they were tested. Nothing entered the house without examination. The purity of the assembly was too precious to risk. Purity was also practiced through generosity. Greed cannot survive in a heart that gives freely. Lust cannot flourish on a path shaped by self-giving love. Anger cannot rule a household where daily prayer softens hearts. The Ruach HaKodesh strengthened them, cleansing motives, lighting hidden corners, exposing what needed to be confessed, and steadying their feet when temptation tried to pull them aside. The assembly fought for purity as farmers fight thorns in their fields, diligently, continually, knowing that one neglected patch could take over the whole vineyard. They walked with humility, for they knew each heart was prone to wander. They leaned upon one another as brothers leaning on staffs during a long journey. They leaned upon Yeshua, the shepherd who leads his flock beside still waters and restores their souls. They leaned upon the Ruach, whose fire purifies and whose breath strengthens. Purity kept the household strong. Discipline kept it safe. Confession kept it soft. Mercy kept it united, and together these wove a fence around the assembly. A wall built not of wood or stone, but of obedience, love, and the fear of Yahweh. Within this fence the people walked with joy, unburdened by guilt, steady in their steps, shining in a city that watched them with wonder. Thus the Jerusalem assembly walked the covenant path with clean hands and steady hearts, guarding the house Yahweh had built through the blood of his Son and the breath of his Spirit.